You've been avoiding Earth. I have called for your help plenty of other times, and you've been pretty content to let those calls go straight to voicemail.
Yeah, well, this is different.
And then we moved on to Marvel Studios. It was huge. And Kevin Feige came out on stage and he said he's always jealous of all these other presentations. They get to do a big musical number. And as if it was planned, he was cut off and the entire musical cast from Rogers, the musical from the series Hawkeye, Stay With Us, came out on stage, performed the entire number of, remind me of the name?
I Can Do This All Day.
I Can Do This All Day.
Thank you.
I can do this all day.
No, I really wanted to hang you out to dry there.
Please cut that out.
That was a truly stunning display that I did not expect.
Pyrotechnics, they had the whole cast.
Yeah, it seemed like the original cast that they used in the, and which are a lot of Broadway stars.
We were living in the real post-credit scene for the season finale of Hawkeye. Yeah. We were in there.
It was
watching Rogers. I sat next to Jeremy Renner, by the way. I should have probably led with that.
It's a weird flex, but sure.
The next big film on their whole pipeline, Wakanda Forever.
Wow.
I don't know what exactly to say about this movie because it has just this emotional tinge because we know everything that's gone on with that. But they brought out the cast and we got to see a scene that only was exclusive to the room with Angela Bassett. Actually, she was at some sort of government.
Yeah, she's at like a UN
hearing,
meeting.
yeah.
Right. And so what I think is really interesting is Black Panther 1 ended on this note of optimism of how Wakanda sort of is going to open its borders and share its resources with the world, and that was poised as a good thing. In the sequel, in this scene that we saw, she's sitting there being questioned by the government saying, hey, vibranium is incredibly dangerous. It doesn't set off metal detectors. It could be like a, what do they call it? It's like a nuclear level threat, essentially, to the world, and you have all of it. So now it's that sort of act of goodwill that T'Challa had for the world is backfiring on Wakanda, and they have to deal with that in this movie, which I thought was incredible. And so what they did with this scene, which is so awesome, as they're questioning her, we're cutting back to Wakanda, where these troops of some military of some government are breaking into Wakanda, trying to take the vibranium. They open the vibranium vault, and who's in there but the Dora Milaje? And they come and have this sick action scene where they take them out, and then it cuts back to the UN room where the Dora Milaje march in those troops who they've taken prisoner. And that was a big like mic drop moment for the Queen of Wakanda to say, you know, yeah, we get your concerns, but don't mess with us.
You are not fit to be a king.
She also, there was a very poignant scene too, because you can see the UN kind of hearing in the trailer as well, but she looks to everybody, she says, the king is dead, Black Panther is gone, the protector of Wakanda is no longer here. It's right. Very, like, they're very much leaning into the fact that Black Panther is gone. It was very emotional. This one clip that we saw makes me so excited for the movie even more than the trailer we got.
Then we moved on, tied into Ironheart, in which the Disney Plus series.
Yes, which Ryan Coogler continued to be on the stage for, and he brought out Anthony Ramos.
He's playing the Hood, which is a mystical character. It's like sort of just like your average sort of like street level thief finds this magical cloak with incredible demonic power. Essentially puts him on the same level as like Doctor Strange. Really goes from zero to hero, or I guess to villain. Well, actually, they painted him as sort of like an anti-hero, like kind of good, kind of bad, but he's going to be there in opposition, the antagonist, to Ironheart. She is, of course, a woman who designs her own Iron Man suit, like essentially from scrap at MIT, and so she is a woman of technology and up against this man of sorcery, and so we're going to see sorcery and technology go head-to-head in the MCU for the first time.
Then we brought up Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
You opened up the quantum realm. That's when this crazy creepy ghost who like walks through walls and stuff.
In the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, we have Scott Lang. He sort of seemed to be wrestling with his newfound fame. He wrote a book, he has a podcast, he's kind of very excited about it. You know, eventually Lily the Wasp and his daughter, who's Catherine Newton, they're kind of over it a little bit by now, but his daughter Cassie is building this like quantum thing, kind of learning from Hank Pym's learnings, and accidentally gets everyone sucked into the quantum realm.
Right.
And
so it's revealed that she is like communicating or sending a signal down to the quantum realm. Janet Van Dyne says, "What are you doing? Cut it off. Shut it down. Shut it down." Explosion! They get sucked into the quantum realm, and then we get to see a snapshot of Bill Murray, who we did get to see at Comic-Con as well.
He seems to recognize Janet and because she was obviously trapped down there for a long time, I wouldn't be surprised if he was some sort of like ruler of the quantum realm.
Romantic
And-
interest.
Oh,
or-
you never know.
She was there a long time. People have needs, Joshua.
My goodness.
She seems more intense.
So yeah, we see some flashes of the quantum realm, lots of really like trippy looking sets and crazy like weird gross monsters and stuff that are all down there. But then we got sort of like a scene, a clip of a scene where Ant-Man meets Kang the Conqueror.
That's
and this
right.
is like the Kang the Conqueror from the comic books that you were expecting to see in Loki. This is not that guy. This is not the one who remains from Loki, where he was a little, kind of silly and kind of off his rocker a little bit. This was dead serious, like warlord. I have blood on my hands. Kang the Conqueror, the guy that we were warned about at the end of Loki.
Not every version of me was so pure of heart.
And he's taken Cassie Lang prisoner, and he has a line from it. What does he say?
He says, Kang looks at Ant-Man, he says, you're an Avenger. Ant-Man says, I'm an Avenger. And he's like, oh, have I killed you before? You feel the weight and the horror. And Kang asks Ant-Man, there's something that was stolen from me and only you can steal it back. Will you help me? Ant-Man says no. Immediately Kang pins him to the wall. Like, zero effort.
With
like,
a gesture.
Yes, like this is like, Kang has to be bigger than Thanos. He is like, you could feel,
Thanos?
you felt the weight, not size-wise, but you felt the weight of Kang the Conqueror in this final scene, in the stinger of the trailer.
There's some shots of him looking very bloodied, so he's definitely going to go through some stuff. But when he says, when Kang says, like, I need you to steal something and pins him to a wall, I'm like, do you really need him to steal something?
This is almost the end, ladies and gentlemen, of everything and everyone.
Then we moved on to a special presentation from Marvel Studios. It's going to be a special presentation on Disney Plus, Werewolf by Night, which is being directed by normally the Marvel composer go-to.
Legendary composer, by the way. He's composed the Batman, like Space Mountain, the ride at Disneyland, like almost very different two examples I gave.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck.
Michael Giacchino, legendary composer, he's directing a Marvel Studios special event.
And it looked scary and weird. It was like black and white, and the editing was kind of crazy. Just like lots of deep cuts, like within a scene. It was,
very like Universal Monsterverse.
Yeah.
Kind of like the kind of film grain, like the tears in
Old
the film.
school schlocky horror,
Yeah.
but still with like some really genuinely terrifying
There
stuff
was
in
some
there.
jump moments in the trailer. I was like, oh.
And the trailer,
wow.
I believe, is online, so you can check
Yeah.
that out.
I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are.
Then Loki season 2, where they came out with some of the cast. Tom Hiddleston, of course, Owen Wilson.
Sophia DiMartino, and breaking casting news, Ke Huy Quan from Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, he's the best person in the world. He's joining Loki season 2, which, by the way, this is the first ever season 2 of a Marvel Studios show.
That's right.
They showed us a little stinger, like sort of teaser trailer. We did get a little look at like what's happening with the TVA. It looks like Loki is in the TVA. It's like abandoned. Time is all like distorted and everything. He's like being teleported around. Kind of that same effect we saw in season 1 when you mess with someone's like time rewinder thing. And then he's slowly realizing that like Kang the Conqueror has like taken over everything. He burns through a wall with one of those disintegrator sticks. Let me stop doing that. One of those pruning sticks. And then behind the wall is there's this like edifice of these giant sculptures of Kang the Conqueror. So it's really setting in that like Kang did some serious damage, has taken over, and they obviously got that tease at the end of season 1, but it's very pervasive in season 2.
See you soon.
My favorite part also was when Tom Hiddleston came out on stage and he said he saw the Ant-Man trailer with Kang. It was like, oh, that guy looks familiar. I don't know who let him free, but it wasn't us. Definitely not anything from Loki season 1 for sure.
I want to mess with him.
Yeah, but I'm very excited because, yeah, like I feel like the first season was them kind of trying to escape the TVA, but this one looks like they're also trying to escape the TVA, but in a different way, where they're like, he's also wrestling with the fact that like Owen Wilson's character doesn't know who Loki is, and so he's kind of in this like brand new world in the TVA, and it looks just like the first season in terms of like how sort of colorful the TVA was, in terms of like everything is just like all bets are off in this place, and I could not be more excited for Loki season 2.
Who are you?
Yeah, it was massive, and Marvel wasn't done there. Then they showed off Echo, which, you know, we got a tease of like the Echo character from Hawkeye, and you know, this one had subtitles, and they did a great thing where the crowd applauded.
They taught us how to applaud in sign language.
Yeah, and
which is
it
great.
was really special, and everybody gonna love that.
The trailer seems to really be exploring, you know, her people, her roots, where she came from. There looked to be a tease of her getting some powers. Her hands were glowing a little bit, and then also the big reveal at the end was, of course, that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, survived getting shot in the face, as we saw at the end of Hawkeye. But he had an eye patch, like a bandage over his eye. So yeah, you know, Big Fisk is back.
Repeat the question.
That follows the comics of like he didn't die, but he was horribly wounded. He was blinded, and so he sort of had to deal with like Daredevil's struggle of being blind and sort of. So it was a cool thing they did there.
Explain to me, what are these things comics you talk of?
Comics, that's the source material to which the MCU is based
Whoa,
on.
I should do my research.
How about that? But then they brought out Kingpin's nemesis, Daredevil, just to do a quick wave. Charlie Cox was there. They didn't really have anything to show.
Well, they haven't started filming.
Or tell us because they haven't started filming, but they were acknowledging that, yeah, Daredevil's, yeah, that was cool. The two Ds, that they were red.
Born again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were just acknowledging that, hey, that's happening with these two actors, and it'll come eventually.
And then they showed a sneak peek of a future She-Hulk episode where it's She-Hulk and Daredevil talking on a rooftop, and it's incredible.
It was very funny.
Everyone's gonna love this scene. I mean, obviously they showed it to us.
Yeah, I don't want to describe this one because people will be able to see this in merely a few weeks, days. Who knows when that episode's coming out?
I will say that people, you know, I feel like may have been trepidatious about like for such a serious character like Daredevil coming into a very comedic, silly show like She-Hulk. How will that work? It works very well. They play off each other, and it's hilarious. And he's still very much the Daredevil we know and love.
And to keep it moving along, Captain America: New World Order.
Yes. The big surprise was that they brought Tim Blake Nelson out to reprise his role as the leader. Actually, we never saw him become the leader. We got that tease right at the end of Incredible Hulk 14 years ago, where the chemicals.
The Incredible Hulk.
But yeah, I mean, they brought the Abomination back. Now they're bringing the leader back. They're paying off that plot point that we all thought, you know, Marvel had abandoned and forgotten about, but it didn't. There's no like basis in the comics to why the leader would go up against, you know, Sam Wilson's Captain America, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm very excited to see what they're gonna do.
And then we know there is no Avengers team right now, and we know the end of Phase 5 is going to be Thunderbolts. The entire cast was there.
The MCU is in a place right now where there is no Avengers team, so we have to turn to these like anti-heroes and outright villains to save the world. So I think it's going to be a very interesting movie, and this cast is pretty hype.
And the final thing that Marvel showed off today was the Marvels. Brie Larson was on stage with Tona Paris, Iman Vellani, and we got to see the first ever trailer for the Marvels.
The director, Nia DaCosta, who directed Candyman last year, she was like, "Hey, here's the trailer." And we're like, we got, like, Nick Fury was in it. The Marvels were in it. All of them, even.
I thought it was really interesting how they finally explained why Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel switched places, because that same phenomenon happens again with Monica Rambeau and Miss Marvel. And apparently because they all control light with their powers in a different way, for some reason that I'm sure will be explained in the movie, that's causing them to randomly switch places, and that brings them all together. The movie actually looked really cool from the footage we saw. Seeing Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau have their powers in like costumes and stuff just executed with a movie level budget looks so slick and so cool, because, you know, obviously they debuted on TV, but they really spared no expense with this movie. It looked really fun, had a great rhythm to it, and it looks like another must-see Marvel movie.
Also, we saw some Secret Invasion. They showed off some more footage of that.
We saw a trailer for Secret Invasion, the Disney Plus series, Comic-Con, but we saw a new, different one here at D23 Expo, and it had Ben Mendelsohn. It had Skrulls. It had Nick Fury. It had Don Cheadle. He looks like there's tensions. Nick Fury seems like an outlaw in this. Kind of beanie, big beard, like what's going on? How he knows about the Secret Invasion. Don Cheadle knows about the Secret Invasion. No one's telling anybody. You can't trust anybody. Nick Fury was like, how much do you trust your security detail? I'm like, oh my God, everyone's a Skrull. Maybe we're Skrulls. We don't know.
And another important detail that they dropped was that Don Cheadle's character, War Machine, is in Secret Invasion, and what happens in Secret Invasion will kick off his series, Armor Wars, which comes next. But they said nothing about Armor Wars because they haven't shot it yet. But they said that it would be something very important will happen for one leads into the next.
You're in no shape for this fight that lies before us.